Hi there, since my last video I've been machining the other flywheel, which took quite a while, but I've just done a test assembly. Well, this is starting to come together nicely. And a nice bit of compression there. And Earl decided to make his out of steel, and it took him forever, but he's produced a really good result. And in this video I'm going to machine the governor. Okay, so I'm going to start off and make the governor weights, and the drawing suggests using steel, some bar stock, which is 1 3/4 inch in diameter, to give you this radius on the edge, and then it's drilled through, but I've not got anything that big, so what I'm going to use is a couple of pieces of brass. So I've cut these to the sort of the largest outside diameters, and I think first of all what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill and ream this hole here 3/16 inch on each of them. Once I've done that, I'll then drill this hole in the centre. So whilst it's centred in here, I might as well cut this groove. It should be 3/32 inch, but I've only got a 2.5mm slot drill. That looks okay. Well, they seem to have worked out okay. And while it was centred, I drilled and tapped the 256 holes. So what I need to do is just mark it up so I can drill this hole through here. But I'll do all that off camera, and I'll get back to you once I'm in a position to start making these radiuses here. Okay, so this looks like a bit of a convoluted setup to create these radiuses, but I think it should work. What I decided to do was to hold it using the hole that I've just drilled, and to calculate the position of that hole from the centre. This is an MT2 blank, which I've used before with a mandrel in the middle. So I centred on the middle. And to calculate this distance from the middle to that point, I know that the outside radius needs to be 7/8 inch, and I moved, having got it on centre, I moved the table to me on the y-axis by 7/8 inch. Then I know that this distance here, the width is 9/16, and I know this is 1/4 inch, So I took 9/16 minus a quarter, which gives 5/16, which is 0.3125. So I moved the table back that way, and that put me on the position where I needed to drill and tap that hole, which I've obviously already done. And I've created this bit of support here to stop the piece from spinning. So what I've done now is I've just from the centre I've moved the y-axis this way by let me see, 3/8 of an inch, because that's where the radius needs to be, and that to me looks spot on. So I'm quite happy now. I can put a cutter in here, maybe a 10mm one. I'll need to move the table that way again to accommodate the cutter, but I can just nibble away until I get that radius. Okay, so this is a 10mm cutter, so if I take 5mm, which is 0.1969, off 3/8 of an inch, which is the radius, that gives me 0.1781. So I need to move the table towards me in 10th increments until the DRO reads 0.1781, and that should give me the 3/8 of an inch radius. Well, that looks perfect. So what I need to do is to repeat a similar process on the outside edge. So for that I'll put a support on this side and mill on the outside. But it's all straightforward stuff, so I'll do it all off camera. Well, for completeness, I thought I'd show you this setup for the outside radius. Well, they turned out okay, very happy with those. Now I need to make the governor arms out of steel, and this is the only sort of piece of steel that I've got close to size, but there's going to be a lot of wastage there. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to fabricate them. I'm going to silver solder these pieces together. But before I do that, I'm going to put them in the forge or chuck on the lathe, and I'm just going to turn this end down here to 3/16 of an inch in diameter so they fit through the holes. Well, with this being a fairly light machining task, I've decided to try and hold it in this collet chuck. So I'm going to try and silver solder this, and I just hope that this little clamp isn't going to be too much of a heatsink. Well, so far so good. The silver soldering seemed to work okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to, I think, Loctite these together and then start trying to make this profile on the milling machine and a bit of hand filing. But it's going to be so fiddly is that I'll have to do it all off camera. Well, they seem to have worked out okay. I've tried to follow the profile in the drawing. It's a little bit difficult, but I know that the width of these fingers needs to be no greater than 3/32 of an inch because they fit into the governor's spool, and most of this was achieved using hand files, and I've not Loctited these into the weights at the moment. I think I'll leave that until I'm closer to assembly. So what I need to do now is to get on and make the governor bracket, and this will be made out of a piece of aluminium. So I've already opened up the internal bore to about 1/2 inch, and it needs to be opened up now with this boring bar to enable a sliding fit over the hub on the wheel. Now the wheel hub is just about spot on 3/4 of an inch, so I need to be aiming for around about 0.751. So this is the final cut on fine feed. Ooh, just a smidgen tight, just a couple of thou to go, but I'll do that off camera. Well, I've not parted it off yet, and the instructions show a really good method of holding it in the vise using a V-block. I suppose it's quite common practice, but something I've never done before. So here I'm just milling the ears to a 1/4 inch in depth. So now I need to repeat the same process on the other side, but I'll do that off camera. Well, this is all pretty much straightforward milling. Okay, so to clean up the face where I've just cut it off with a bandsaw, I've put a parallel in here and pushed it onto the parallel and then tightened it up with this V-block and vise. So once I've got down to the correct level, I'll just switch it round and complete the unmachined bits. But I'll do all that off camera. And finally I'll need to cut some grooves 3/16 of an inch wide to a depth of 1/4 of an inch. Well, I've done a test assembly and I ended up making a few bits and pieces off camera. There's some little adjusters here for the spring, which are quite tiny, and I took a guess on the springs. They're a bit rough and ready though, so I'll probably remake those, but just to get an idea as to how they might perform. And the spool, the governor spool, I made out of some leaded steel, which is a bit easier to turn on the lathe, especially when using a parting tool. What else did I do? Oh, and I just drilled through here to take these cotter pins. So we'll go over to the lathe and give it a test run. So from memory, which ain't great, the farm boy, I think the governor cuts in round about 550 RPM, which is probably a little bit low. So we'll see what happens here. So this spool should move out, I think, or move in. It'll move in. So let's give it a try. No movement so far, which is good. 217, no movement. I think it's moved there. 560. Going further. See when it starts to come back. Looking at the spool. figure's just starting to come back there, 650. I don't know, we're not a mile away. But it certainly seems to function okay. Well, that seemed to work well. I think the springs are a bit on the weak side, so that's something I'll have to revisit later on. They're a bit of a bodge, they're not very pretty. But functionally, it seems to work great. Now, I must thank everybody for the help and support and advice and tips provided. I got a fantastic tip the other day from John Harmon, and he recommended getting some Friolux solder paste. Anyway, I ended up getting something similar. It's not identical, but it's TSC solder paint. I think it's made by the same company. And if you want to solder some pieces together, you just paint it on, join the pieces together, apply heat, and hey presto, it joins them together. Amazing stuff. So I highly recommend that type of product. And in my next video, I'm going to be machining the carburettor, which incorporates the inlet and outlet valves, so that should be quite interesting. And I know Earl's had a lot of fun machining his. But anyway, I hope you liked the video, and I hope to see you later.